So I just wanted to show you this lovely little nuke, this Mini Plus nuke. This is a classic example of how all my Mini Plus are built up so well. How they've done it, I'm kind of like, whoa, that's incredible. Because 2 weeks ago, they only had one body, but they were full. So but the base was full of bees. And now I've put on the second body, gave them a couple of frames of honey that I had in store, which was obviously, that was a big help. But I've also fed them really hard and they've had protein. And I'll show you this. So I'll take this top off. We just use, this is the summer configuration when we haven't got enough roofs. Most of them, I've got roofs, that red one over there, for example. In the middle there, you can just see there. That's what we have, that's the kind of roofs we have. You've probably seen them before. But this is what we use in the summer. All you need is a slate. It's just fine for the summer. The weight pushes down on top of the feeder. Keeps the feeder off. Bees can't get underneath. Believe you me, when you've got a lot of bees trying to rob, they can get underneath there. But anyway, that's fine. So I'll show you this quickly, because I don't think these bees are overly nice, but look at that. The whole thing's built out and the whole thing's full of honey. It's exactly what I wanted. That's like just over 8 days. They're just absolutely fantastic, you know. So I'm going to give them one more feed now and that will just finish that off. Just wanted to show you that. And you can see, you know, how quickly they do prep for the autumn. The bees are doing their own preparations. They're coming up to the feeder. We'll fill this up. We are inundated this year with these beasts, really big hornets. These are the common hornet, Vespa crabo. There's also a lot of the other type of hornets around, the Asian hornets, but nothing in any great numbers that I'm really concerned about. So as much as it's a pain, they are really not really doing any harm to anybody. And every single one of these nukes I'm feeding, they're all just guzzling down this syrup I'm using. So I'm actually using a syrup with some thymol in this time, and I've diluted it down slightly to accept the thymol. They're all absolutely woofing it down. Some of them are getting out there. I don't know how they managed to push this up. You can see the colonies, they're getting some really good weight to them now. Makes me very happy that. I'm going to come on and give them some more syrup now. They're all going to take more. The weather's just clearing through. We've had an awful lot of rain. You can see the whole place has kind of got that autumnal look about it. There's loads of nukes there to clean up. They are some of the failures that didn't make the last batch of queens, but hey ho, that's just the way it is. You do what you can. All empty, all taking down the syrup like this. They've already had 2 feeders full. This is all looking absolutely fun. Another one empty, you know. There's the pollen sub. Virtually gone, and I'm going to put a new pollen sub on some of these. So that one's still a bit light. That's going to need a couple of feeds, but there's still some good feed in there. So, you know, it's all looking good. I'm so pleased with the way things are going. You do what you can. This was my drone, one of my big drone colonies. This is the only one I haven't broken down yet, and I got to do that now because I just ran out of time. But it was so prolific with bees for so long, and I've got to get in there, and I'm going to divide. This is a good thing to use the resources. This whole box will have some brood in the top and the brood in the bottom, but I'll obviously combine it just to be 10, and the remaining frames of honey, which I know it's full of honey, will be used to go into these nukes to just bolster up any nukes that aren't completely full, you know? So that's how I do things. It's just the realization of what you've got. You use what you have, you use what you've got, and you just put it into the weaker colonies. For instance, this one is a laying worker. So there's nothing I can do with this now. It's far too late to sort anything else. I'll shake the bees out and I'll give these frames to another colony. But you can see they've been taking the pollen sub down. Everywhere you look, there's strands of the paper that I had the pollen sub wrapped in. It's all gone in. I'm really pleased. Everything is, you know, just looking absolutely peachy. I honestly couldn't wish for a better recovery than what I've had. I do admit I've neglected these colonies a little bit this summer because I've been so busy. I just put this top on the other day. This is another one. 3 days ago I put this on. Let's see what they've been doing with it. Building that out nicely. Look, they're moving up. I'll give them some more feed now. But they're looking good. They've emptied that feeder. They've got a really good queen. The bottom was totally packed. So they'll have another feed now. And then they'll finish off filling that up. The whole idea with these nukes is They're just little colonies. They're just a queen with some attendants, really, but they built up bigger because what they do is they'll brood as they are now for another 2 or 3 weeks, maybe even a month, maybe even into November. Who knows? It doesn't matter. But when they finish brooding, the colony will migrate up and they'll be clustered around that honey for when they need it in the winter. And obviously, because heat rises, they'll be going to the top of their colony. That's what you got to remember when you're preparing bees for the winter. It's the classic example of if you have a super on your colony and you leave it on, and you leave a queen excluder between the top of the brood box that was and the top and the super on top, the queen cannot get up. So often you'll get isolation starvation. The queen will die because most of the bees leave her because they've got to go up to where the honey is in the winter. See, this is really interesting. I've just filled up this feeder and the smell of my syrup is in the air. But what is actually happening is the bees are so in a frenzy here for this stuff. They absolutely love it. And I've got thymol in this syrup, and they just kind of home in on it, and they just get into the bee frenzy. But you see, they just fall off in clumps. They can't get over themselves enough. They can't get the lid up. They'll give up in a minute, but it's just interesting how they just continuously climb up. They just got that smell. They think there's loads coming out. There may be a little bit coming out the inside of the lid, because on the other one next door, I'm not going to take this one off, but on this one, you can see basically I've filled it right to the top, and there's maybe a tiny bit seeping out. But it just gives the bees that little bit of syrup just coming out, and they're just absolutely going mad on it. It's incredible. Tiny bit of decent weather, bees are all flying, and they're just on everything. All of a sudden it's as if we never had 2 days of rain and gales. Absolutely amazing. All that feeding was yesterday, Saturday afternoon. We've now got the low and the high pressure come back close together, so you can see how windy it is. We've got still this northerly flow, but the bees are flying, so that's good. And where there's a calm area in a valley, they are foraging on the ivy, which is brilliant. And now we've had the rain. I'm back up at the workshop. I've just sneaked out this afternoon for a few hours. I've got my my group we call greedy boards. They sit on the side of the they sit in here, which means I can load more supers on. I can get 3 high, and I'm going off to collect the last load of supers from 3 different apiaries where there's just a few on each one. I really want this job finished. You can see the stack is getting pretty big now. I've got a lot of different supers. As I was saying, what we're doing is these boxes are going to be converted to 8, but I need to know how many I need to scrape clean first and pressure wash before I commit these boxes to 8s, because I don't want to commit boxes and leave them as 10s if I can, when I can convert them to 8s for next year. But obviously at the moment I know I've got 60 or 70 of these boxes, but I know that we've got at least 300 frames, which equates to about 30 supers to fill back with 10s. So it's just, I can't finish this until I've got all my supers back in and gone through the frames to see what is left to sort out. So that's why it takes so long. But I'm doing this job now because it's one to cross off the list. I was hoping to get away in October, but there's absolutely no chance it's the same for everybody else. I'm just hoping I can get away for Christmas, but that's why I'm just getting down, just concentrating really hard on getting all my jobs finished. And I won't have them all finished, but because I'm making a good start and I can see that, I think it's motivating. And you never can stop. The last 2 days have been so bad, the weather, I felt like I was almost stagnating, because it almost stops you doing what you want to do when you've had such a busy, intense time, and you suddenly stop and go, whoa, because you're almost forced to. And then today I'm back out because we've got a northerly wind, it's dry, you can get stuff done. You know, I can get these last things finished off, and then I'm ready to go inside for the winter to start making the frames, to start re-waxing, mini plus. All that has got to be done. There's absolutely hours and hours of work to do in the workshop, which is brilliant, because I also feel that by changing my job to just being a beekeeper, I'm able to get all my winter prep done and be productive, because when it's raining, I'm not stuck outside doing someone's garden. I'm inside getting the work done, so that come the summer, I actually have more time with my bees, but also I'm not going to be doing the gardening, but I've got more time because my prep is done. I just come back here, pick up the equipment, and then off we go. I know that all these supers, when they are finished, will all be clean and ready to go. so that I'm not having to go through them in the spring and summer. It's just a way of working. It's my management method at the moment. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do for everybody. I'm just saying use your time wisely. So off out to the apiaries to collect these load. So I'm at the first apiary. Truck's all empty, which is looking great. This is what I was on about the extender boards, which means I can put 3 supers on, which really makes a massive difference. You can see the supers here. Here we go. There's not many in this apiary, but like I said, I had a few in each one just to finish collecting up. But the bees are absolutely flying like mad, which is lovely. Nice lot of pollen coming in. They're really there's obviously some brood hatching. They've got some orientation flights going on. We've got our hornet guard. Well, these aren't the hornet guards, but these are the mouse guards up. I've had my mouse guards up since August really, because I feel that as soon as the bees stop foraging, when the summer flow stops and the dearth starts, you might just as well put your clear your mouse guards up, because it's a way for me of marking that the hive's been treated and prepared for the dearth. So, but I leave these on because you see these mouse guards, when you look lower there, you can see they've got lots of access. So the bees aren't really slow down in their movement. And I feel that as the colony gets a little bit smaller at the end of the summer into the winter, I'm already giving the bees some protection against other foragers. And there's less chance of robbing because of that. It's just a little thing I like to do. I obviously talked about this when I was talking about nukes, and I didn't get my nukes entrances closed down enough. So I did have some robbing, and I did lose a few nukes that were a little bit weaker. But at the end of the day, were those nukes really worth keeping if they didn't defend themselves? That's the question. So I absolutely adore this apiary, because I'll explain why. Because in front here, this is what you can see I was on about before, that it gets, there's no real weed protection. It's a very low area. There's just behind that pile of brambles there's actually a load of, it's like a little pond. So it's got water. It's in a little league of its own, and it's really in the sun all day. I haven't got a lot of hives. I've got about 15 hives here. That's all you need in one area. And the other thing is I've got another apiary quite close to here, so I don't want any more hives than that. But in this place, there's the other apiary up the road that's got loads of lime trees around here. There's loads of apple trees. There's loads of bramble. There's everything the bees need for a really good diverse load of pollen. So it's absolutely brilliant, you know. But let's get these supers off, get them on, and then we'll go on to the next one. So that's the last supers off. There's 3 apiaries I've visited. Not a huge amount there, but it's nearly full in the truck. So I'll get these home, sort them out, and get them put away. And then I'll know exactly what I've got left to sort out. Overall, I'm happy. This apiary is the only one that hasn't been fed, because it had the honey supers on before to dry. But they're all actually already got good weight, so I am going to come past tomorrow and I'm going to feed them all. And I've just been and shucked each one, and they're all got a good weight. You know, I just go along like this, and there's some really good weight in these colonies. And these are these are 10 frames actually. There's a couple at the end which are a little bit light, so I know where to concentrate on the feed, but I know they'll have two feeders completely full. And if I've got some big wooden feeders on some of the other colonies, which I know I have, I'll use those and swap them over to give the ones that really need it. The main thing is I've been using this thymol treatment, well, not really treatment, it's thymolized syrup, but I normally wouldn't use it, but I'm using it because I believe it might have some action in the damp in the winter against nosema if it's around. I have no tests done on my bees. I don't know what my count is. That's something I'm going to have to look at. But I do believe the only way to tackle a problem of winter losses the previous year is to cover all possibilities. Now, I know that does mean a lot of expense, but really for thymolized syrup, it's not a great deal of expense. It just means that I've diluted my syrup down a little bit to get water in it, which is obviously contra what you would do. And the fructose syrup is so thick, we don't dilute it. But I'm not sure why, but they have been absolutely guzzling this down quicker than I've ever seen. It might be because it's actually got water in it added to it, that it's making it more palatable. I'm not sure. But this apiary is now done, and you can see again another one that all need clearing around. They all need that last cut before the winter. We've had rain, we've still got good temperatures. The next 3 days we're going to have really good temperatures, up to 20. That's not fantastic, but it's really good for what I want because we've got the moisture. But after that, it's going back to very unsettled, very strong winds, and the 2 deep depressions coming in. I only hope that after that we just get a calm weather, because if we have calm weather, our bees can forage and all is well. So as you know, the thymol is an organic based plant extract. It is said to, the main reason why people used to use it, and going back to Manley in the 1940s, he used to use it because he found it stopped his syrup going moldy. And obviously he used to use sugar, but nowadays we don't use it. And it's kind of been forgotten about by many people because it isn't necessary in modern beekeeping. And if you think you don't have, if you're not going to have moldy syrup. But what people have discovered over the years is it does have a secondary effect. It does seem to suppress nosema. And it's said to clean the bees out, okay? I've spoke to a lot of beekeepers who talk about this, and a lot of the ones I know all use it, but they don't shout about it because it is something you've got to get right. And I will tell you, please take heed of the recipe. Don't add a little bit too more when you've mixed it up. It's actually very easy to mix up with you mixed a certain amount of thymol crystals with alcohol, with the right alcohol. Then you dilute that into some lecithin in hot water, and that gives you your mix that you add in by the teaspoon to say 10 litres, okay? So I've been mixing up like hundreds of litres of this stuff, and next year I'll be doing it in bulk because I believe by adding water to my syrup, it's actually, obviously they've got to dry it more, so it's almost like reverse logic. But I just can't help but feel that my bees are taking down syrup much, much better. And the result at the end looks so much better. The colonies have got heavy very quickly. There's been very little time to forage, and the ivy flow hasn't been doing much. So most of my colonies, these actually have found a bit of forage, so I'm pretty pleased. But I can't help but think thymol's been overlooked for a long time now, and it was something they added in, as I said, just to stop the syrup going moldy. But at the time they would have seen additional benefits, like probably reduced amounts of the nosema spores in the colony. It's just there's no real hard evidence to say, but as I said before, I'm covering myself as much as I can. I know a lot of people that use it, and a lot of people swear by it, and they said get it in your mix in the autumn. It cleans the bees through, as well as hopefully helping against nosema. Okay, I've heard that there obviously is 2 types, and one of the types can be virtually invisible. I would be interested to hear anyone else's opinion on that. I don't like to go on hearsay. I treat my bees a kind of scientific approach, but you can find this recipe on all good websites. David Cushman, fantastic recipes on there. Go on to there. On Scientific Beekeeping site, go on there. You'll find it all on there. You know, it's something that I think maybe a lot of European beekeepers might not be using as much, but it costs peanuts. It's really good. It seems to have an effect, and it might just have a little bit of an edge on the varroa in the colonies. I'm not saying it is. You could think of it as an essential oil in that respect, because there's no proven action on any of these, but under certain treatments, under certain times, I think it has some help. So from what I've seen so far, you know, and obviously feeding your colonies anyway when you know there's been a dearth is the best, most sensible thing you can do, because if everything else comes along, we get a month of ivy, fantastic, you know, plenty extra pollen. But if we don't, I'm glad I fed my colonies, because they are looking great now. They're all strong, they're all healthy. I've got some grumpy bees. That means they're happy, you know, they're happy to be grumpy. And we just have to get on with it. So, a bit of food for thought on the thymol. I really don't know, but I've done it. because last winter was the wettest winter I've ever kept bees, and I'm sure that contributed to my losses. As I said, I know it was Varroa as well, and I could go on and on and on and trying to punish myself about what killed my bees. But I'm past that. It's just I'm putting things into place. It's my management to do that now, and I'm probably forever going to use thymolated syrup in my mix, because when I see the results already and how quickly they take it down, it can only mean one thing: that they think it's a good thing. The bees, you know, I'll let you know in the what the winter clusters are like, what the spring clusters look like, and what the spring obviously takes off like. But I can't help but think initially it's looking very positive. So that's all I'm saying. If you're thinking of doing it now in Europe, it's almost too late now. We're almost in shutdown now. We're almost at the point now where the bees are stopping taking syrup. They might take ivy if they can get it. You've got about 2 weeks maximum if you're going to do a thymol treatment. Get it done now. I'm not going to do a video on how to make up a thymol treatment. If you want to go to another site like Norfolk Honey Company, Stuart Spinks has got a really good video on how to make up thymols for thymolizing syrup. You know, look at what's available and plan. That's the management I suggest, because it's no good saying, oh, Richard Knowles doing it on internet, therefore I must do it. You should have thought about this before. It's not something you do just because you think you should do it. You've got to have a reason for doing it. And the reason why I'm trying it is because I feel that it's something I need to do in relation to the problems I had last year. I've got a couple of Nancy bees here and they're really getting on my nerves. But that's why I'm doing it. Really don't think you should be doing it unless you feel it's necessary. Now with Brittany, it's so damp in the winter. I think it's justified if it does have some help against eczema. I know there's another way of thinking about it. I know that we should be thinking, well, we should bring up the conditions to help stop eczema in the first place. I totally agree on that. But at the moment, I've got to run a business. I'm going to be on my own now. It's my only source of income. You can imagine I have got to be very careful the way I treat my bees. It's not like it's a bit of fun anymore. It is fun because I make it that way, but I've got to be absolutely rock solid in my approach. I cannot have any mistakes, because if I have the same winter losses next spring, I am, you know, up, as I said many times, shit creek with a very, very broken paddle and paddling against the current, you know. So there it is. It is what it is. It's treatment, it's feeding, it's screening out hopefully some problems with eczema. So then the next step is I'm cleaning all the apiaries. That's within 2 weeks. And then I'm coming in starting oxalic acid treatment, which I'm mopping up the remaining mites. And don't forget, mite levels can rise again after you put your treatments in, and they can rise into October, November, because we've still got a lot of brood in the colonies. So it's all something to consider, all something to, we say, food for thought. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, whatever you're doing, be well, be safe, and I'll catch you again soon. Bye for now.